All right. So I wanted to look at some using Portrait Studio to help us talk about rotation today. Rotation comes from uh, the reason why students have issues with rotation is because they've been drawing on 2D surfaces for a very, very long time. That means that paper on pencil, charcoal on paper, pencil on paper, charcoal on paper, just it's always been flat. And when we think about rotation, we're basically tilting something away from us. So when I say away, I mean this is her head if it wasn't tilted. And we usually, when we try to practice, yeah, we learn how to draw a front view face for a while. And then we go into side view face, we experiment a little bit with that, and all we ever draw is this for a side view face. We're running some updates, by the way, so we're just doing a little bit of troubleshooting. If you see these weird lines, it's just the updates. We're going to work on that tonight. But right here, your model said this, but your version spoke this. So you didn't really capture the fact that the head was rotating away from the camera. So you did capture this, wait, no, where is it? No. This whole thing, so you did capture that, but she didn't capture the fact that she's doing this. And the fact that she's doing this means that, pay attention to this right here. See where my mouse is? See this line? Look what happens to that line when we push away. It gets illuminated, and it starts revealing her cheekbone. When we think like this, when we're capable of rotating objects like this, so the equivalent of this in front view, alright, so this is going to show us different angles as we're doing the action. Alright, this is moving to the side. So do you guys see that? Yeah, it's a simple gesture. Yeah, it's a simple little micro movement, but it means the world. It means the world when you can capture this kind of rotation, this kind of tilt in your 2D version, in your rendition. So this is something I wanted to point at. A lot of students haven't captured the fact that this face has tilted away. She not only is looking up, closing her eyes, her neck is stretched out, but she's looking away. She's tilted away. So these lines right here just mean everything. They indicate that we're looking at the bottom of the cube, especially the fact that we're seeing the lower half of her jaw. And we have this line in front of this, so we're getting this rotation. Where in front view it would have just been like that. Nothing would have rotated in front of anything. Everything would have just been beside each other, stitched together. Where here we're seeing the bottom of her neck. So when it comes to perspective, if you guys remember this whole thing that I referred to, I don't know who made it. I still don't know who made it. Maybe you guys can do a reverse image search for me, because I don't know how to do a reverse image search. But let me see if I can find it. I always show this. I will always show it these. Perspective, 2-point, 3-point, 1-point perspective. Help you understand these. So tilting the head, these gentle tilts in the head means this. This is not only a rotation issue, this is a perspective issue. So rotation is a unit of perspective. Write that back to me. What I mean when I say rotation is a unit of perspective, perspective needs a z-axis. Perspective needs a box in which that other box exists. It needs space. You rotate something around in a perspective. So being able to rotate the head like this successfully means that you also know how to rotate a cube around like this. You can appreciate what a cube does in different angles. So this right here showing us different what's happening to the nothing's happening to the model, so this is useless at this point. But if you can rotate these different perspectives, I keep contrast really low in my version of Portrait Studio because I don't like to invite excessive contrast use. So being able to do this, let me turn off motion blur. This is all perspective. Yeah, it's a really advanced version of a cube, but it's still a cube, guys. It's still a cube, just like you can't run before you walk. I don't know who did this. I swear to God, I'm not just taking your words and using them as a script and saying these are my independent thoughts. No, whoever made this, I give you full credit. I respect you. I'm always using this little splash you made. Every time I teach, but I'm just going to read what they wrote. Just like you can't run before you walk or walk before you crawl, it's going to be extremely difficult to draw a face before understanding basic perspective. This isn't I didn't invent this. I didn't make this up. Every artist has had issues with this, and they just discovered that if they start treating things in their core native geometry, it becomes very easy to be able to, in your 2D version, represent this gentle little movement. Okay? Rotation is a unit of perspective. Alright? So in a perspective topic, rotation comes up. Being able to rotate. And when I say rotate, you can rotate on the Z, X, and Y axis. It really doesn't matter which axis you rotate on. It's the fact that you've moved it. The camera is still, the object has moved. You are still, the object is moving. Alright, so please remember that if you find yourself incapable of capturing simple little tilt like this in your person, I know they're not simple, but again, back to the cube, it's simplicity. If you're not capable of capturing this kind of stuff, or you've found, or some critique person has told you in their critique that you're not capturing the tilt properly, you need some time on perspective. You need some time drawing cubes, tilted cubes, and most importantly, now remember this, imagine I'm just holding every one of your heads right now, and I'm just like holding your heads. Okay, don't forget about animation. Alright, see everything in frames. So let's go back to our little cube. Let's get a more interesting object. Alright. No, not this one. This was too complicated. Okay, let's fix the lighting. Alright, let's get a secondary light source in there. Need some more space. Fuck, I need more space. Okay. And along the z-axis. Okay. Perfect. Let's give it some more strength, and let's just rotate this. Whoa! Okay, no. Let's rotate this little thing. Alright, so animation means that we started here, and then this was the next frame, and this was the next frame, and this was the frame after that, and then we ended up there. And then we have frame number 1, number 2, or actually number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, sorry about those weird little thingies. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you're thinking about it as frames in an animation. So animation and rotation are at this point synonymous. They are one and the same. Thinking about when I say, okay, let's say, how many of you here can imagine someone running in perfect frames? How many of you can actually see in your mind's eye right now, if you closed your eyes or keep them open, whatever, can you actually see a person running? Can you imagine it? Is it hard? It is hard. Because you don't have this live recording of every single individual frame, and your brain doesn't have them recorded side by side and then plays them for you as a sequence. Because you're not thinking, you never recorded things as a frame. You recorded them as still images. So this right here is a still image. What you have to do in order to improve your ability to rotate, it doesn't just stop there. It doesn't just, try 1 point, 2 point, 3 point perspective. It doesn't just stop there. You have to go to the lengths of girl tilting head. Let's see what happens. I mean, God, I hope we won't find some weird random shit. Black girl gestures. Head dance. Let's see what comes up there. No, just some weird shit. Oh my God. I just wanna find someone like dancing girl. Oh please, nothing creepy. Yeah, just a lot of dumb shit. Oh my God. How to shake head. Oh my God. The Indian head bobble. So I can't find one right now. But basically what you want to do is the exact frame that you're trying to perfect. So you've identified that you have an issue with your ability to rotate. What you do is you look up the frame that came before this and the frame that came after this. So this is typically why I had to see Portrait Studio finished, because they see how hard it was just now finding a fucking reference to look at. That's why I just hate the idea of leaving, my ability to learn at the mercy of Google. So that's why I'm kind of just made this whole thing happen here. So it's all about the fact that I can do this and I can record it in my mind and be able to give my brain the frames that it needs. Starts here, ends here, and I see more and more of the secondary light source on the chin, on the lower area of the chin, because the chin is more visible. Alright, so let me show you one more time what happens when we have that visibility. Okay. Okay, and then z-axis. Just want to show it at the bottom. Lower that intensity. So these are little point lights that you get. But just take a look at what happens here. More of that lower piece is visible right along there. That's what you're supposed to do. You want to improve your ability to rotate an object. You want to improve all of this rotation problem, these perspective blind spots that you have in your visual library in your development. The only way you're going to improve this is if you start thinking in frames. The rotation is in frames, and the rotation comes from a better understanding of perspective. All right? Exactly, yeah, good job, Izem. You can use a mirror or a webcam to move your own head to get the reference for rotation. Exactly, thank you. That's a really good idea, guys. Leaving my ability to learn at the mercy of Google. Yeah, because you're not always going to find what you need. You're not always going to find the references that you need. And I wanted to give this little mini lesson here today just to talk about that, the fact that we're not getting the information we need out of a still image. Or please remember, please be conscious of the fact that a still image isn't going to provide you with perspective understanding. The only way to appreciate perspective is through movement. Write that back to me. Take a moment to think about that. Perspective isn't noticed unless something is moving. So let's say there was a big box in front of you and suddenly the box started to float and floated above you, and then at one point or another that box just hovered on top of you and like a saucer, like an alien, like a UFO just started hovering above you. I don't know why the box started moving on its own. I have no idea why, but you started to appreciate the fact that the box started to become above you, and you were the camera, and suddenly there's a worm's eye view happening, and that perspective, that rotation that box, how do you represent what I just described in a sequential frame by frame comic book, like panels in a comic book strip? And you don't unless you think about animation. You can't pull this off and tell these stories of perspective unless you think about the frames, unless you think about the motion. So the only way to appreciate perspective is through movement. Take the time to think about that. Really appreciate that. Good. You're all typing this up. By the way, whoever posts really, really good notes from today's class gets a free copy of my brushes. If you haven't already gotten them, then I guess you don't get shit. But I'll try to give you something else. I don't know. Maybe I'll just give you money. Bribe you guys to have better notes. No, I won't do that. But I'll see what I can do. Whoever does the most thorough notes, the best notes. Not only are you going to actually benefit from these notes, and you're going to remember these rules better, but I just want to give you a little reward for it. Alright, so that's the tiny little lesson. It's a tiny lesson, but it means the absolute world. It means the world. Okay, so this is a whole other business right here. This is more stylization. So I think the arms are too long, the body's I'm just joking. I know that's the style you're going for. I'm joking. I think everything's perfect. Except for this little hand. I don't know what you're doing with that hand. So what it's starting to look like to me, I don't know what reference you use. I don't know if the reference was just a weird little position. Sometimes references have weird little positions. By the way, don't trust your reference through and through. Sometimes your references, they can pull it off because they're realistic. Yeah. If you try to transfer exactly what's happening in your reference into your painting, you won't be able to pull it off. Alright, so what happened here is that the arm was so tiny compared to the extensive length that you applied stylistically, which beautifully actually, to the rest of the limbs. You didn't do that with the arm. The arm seemed underdeveloped, like a little Tyrannosaurus arm or something. So what you have to do... What, Fitbit? What? It's telling me to get up and start walking. Really? I'm in the middle of class. Get up, time to walk. Really? Really? Stupid Fitbit. I don't know how to turn off that stupid notification. I have to find it. It's not as stupid. I recommend Fitbits for everyone who works out, but you know, everyone likes to complain. So what I'm doing right now is increasing the length of the arm and the distance and creating a more believable gesture. So I feel like her gesture should be a little bit more kind of just finished running, and then she's looking around left and right in the street for the person she's looking for or something like that. So she just completed her stance, she just completed her run. And again, I guess the theme of today is animation and thinking about movement. We look up a reference of someone who's running. So, how to stop running. Trust me, there's weird shit. There's weird shit on YouTube. If you just add a how to in the beginning. How to jog. Okay, there we go. I'm sure there's gonna be... What happened in the screen in the background? Yeah, Google's just weird. But how to jog. Alright, so let's see if we can find someone who's stopped their run. And what kind of leftover position, the leftover gesture. Okay. Hello, sir. Please put on a shirt. So let's see what happens to his arms when he's done the run, when he lands, when he's just completed the run. What I usually do, because the point here is that we're appreciating the motion. So animators, how animators perfect their ability to imagine a rotation, to imagine an animation, is to watch it actually happen in front of them. But all of this happens too fast, so I usually slow down the video. Oh, whoops. Slow down the video. And I want to wait for the moment where he's just finished running, how his hands look. Do you know how your hands kind of get all floppy when you're done running? So that's the exact gesture I'm looking for. If I can just find it. We're just watching a guy run in slow motion. It's really weird. But it's worth it, trust me. Referencing this it's more awkward watching this guy run than your parents finding you with nasty stuff on your monitor. Just blame it on me. Just say Istebrak made me do it. Not the nasty stuff, the weird running old man. Alright. Alright, so it's right around here. He's kind of running, and then he slows down. So this hand right here kind of just lags behind. So I'm looking at this hand, the one in the distance. So what she's doing is she just completed the run. One hand is already on the bottom. So I'm looking for a frame where this arm is straight. What's going on with the next arm once this arm is straight? This is as straight as it gets. I think his form, he's just trying to keep his arms bent for his form. But this is pretty much what your other hand should look like. So what you want to do is, of course, there's a perspective. The camera's underneath him. Please remember that. But what you want to do is, I hope this guy doesn't sue me for borrowing his frame from his video. Did you know this shit actually happens? Like if you borrow someone else's footage? It's stupid, right? But you can claim, like, just for educational purposes, chill the fuck out. You can tell them that. So in advance, old man, if you find, I'm sorry, I don't mean to call you old man, mister. If you find this video and this punk ass little girl started borrowing your footage, just remember it's educational, so chill the fuck out. So yeah, right here. This is something I want. I would also want to, because she's long and lanky, I would probably also want to add a little bit of a, so now I get my pen, add a little bit of a lean in her hand, or like a kind of a lazy fist type of thing. Something like that. She looks like she just finished running. She's like some sort of Matrix chase, and she's in the streets, and she's looking for the person, and she's talking to them. Oh, I lost them, and she's just looking left and right, trying to find where the. But the thing is, why we were creating a more believable gesture is because it originated. The gesture that we researched originated from a moving image. And the moving image is what's going to carry the believability of the landing of this run, the believability of this gesture. So if in your studying, in your work, you don't invest enough time finding good references for the gestures, you don't spend enough time, and when I say good references, I mean moving references, you will find that your work looks stiff if all you do is look for still images all the time. Oh, I need a reference for a hand, still image. I need a reference for, she's kind of doing a little spell with her hand. I'm going to look up Google it, hand spell casting, and then you just wait for the next. You're at the mercy of Google. You're waiting for the next, just any gesture that'll just feed your need for a reference, instead of actually looking for a video of someone who is doing the spell themselves. So look up like a belly dancer. They always do those weird little hand movements. Look up, a scene from a movie, a witch casting a spell. What's happening in the frame before and the frame after the instance of the actual frame that you want to capture. All right. So one more thing for this. I really don't think you need this in the background. It's so messy. The detail cluster is excessive. It's really taking attention away from the detail that you have on the object, which is the positive, like the actual focal point. And this is supposed to be negative space out here, but you've made it, complete detail cluster. So this has actually caused more trouble than it's served for the. It's actually caused more trouble instead of serving the composition. It's not helping this character in any way. Now the attention is all back to this character. She just completed her run. She's looking left and right, and now it's just all about the character instead of it being about this crazy overly detailed background. One thing I do recommend is that we never use white backgrounds, but a degree of white. Nothing pure white, just something in the middle. And that always makes for the best splashes in the background. Alright? So these are my recommendations. I know they're like completely random between each painting that we see, but everyone's issues manifest differently and uniquely. But do you see what happened with the arm before? It's like it was underdeveloped. It was like that arm that Deadpool has, when it's growing back. Alright, here now it's all about the character, all about your signature. And that's it. Kind of like the signature beside her. Again, I'm not a big fan of leaving signatures in your work. I think the painting itself is a signature, and the title in your portfolio has your name on it, so you don't have to worry about. It'll always come back. And there's image search for anyone tries to steal your shit. But I feel like that should be just down there and out of the way. This is a character design at this point. And so what you want to do is make it all about the character. When you have a crazy background like that, it's no longer about the character design. It's a messy, immature choice. It's immature to leave excessive random-ass texture in the background. Write that back to me if you can. Alright? Random-ass texture does nothing other. It serves nothing but the purpose of being random-ass. Alright? So the shoulders are a little bit out of place. But again, we go back to that running guy. What's happening to his shoulders when he's running? Right, so they seem pretty stationary, but according to as each arm goes up, slight little variations. This shoulder goes upward, and this, because we're lower than the camera, we're lower than him, we're a low camera, so we're not really seeing how much higher each one is going, because they're moving in the depth at which we are displaced. But this shoulder is going up, and this shoulder is going down. It's getting pulled down. So one shoulder is a little bit higher. So the shoulder that syncs with the straight arm is the lower one, and this is actually the higher one. So what we do is this one is a little bit lower and more round, and this one, not just the shoulder, not the whole trapezius system. I'll show you how displaced it was before. Random ass. Yeah, there you go. So just a little bit of extra elevation for the shoulder joint only. It's not the whole massive shoulder displacement, or that she was born in a completely different, complete asymmetry in her body or something like that. It's just a little bit of a lifting happening. When your elbow is lifted, like everyone lift your elbows and try not to move your shoulder at the same time. It's really awkward, right? Trying to make motions happen without moving your shoulder at all. When you're allowed to move your shoulder goes up, it goes all over the place. And that's another tip to getting better gestures. There's looking at videos and capturing the frames, and there's doing the gesture yourself. Feel it, feel it. You have a body, a reference of your own. Feel what happens to your body, which muscles hurt, which muscles are engaging in the movement. Those are the muscles that you have to look out for that signify the function. So you see how high the shoulder was before and then after. So there is a slight elevation in this shoulder, but not so much as the frames indicated in our reference. But of course you have to find a really good reference. I mean, very rarely, we're at the mercy here of our search engine. We don't, it's very, very hard to find a good reference. Oh god, shut the fuck up. Attention whores. Alright, so shoulder up, shoulder down. All the guys are probably enjoying this. Alright, so I want to see the landing motion. She's probably not going to land. No, she's talking, so those are hand gestures. Really great reference, though, if anybody needs it for educational purposes. Creeps. So she does land. She does slow down for a second. So do you see that kind of lanky little thing that happened to her hand when she slowed down? That's kind of the gesture I saw you. Like the girl stopped, she chased, she was looking around, she's trying to find exactly what happened. And this is the hand gesture that resulted. So this hand is lazy and this hand is lazy. The thing is, she's talking, so she's trying to she's using that speech thumb talk gesture thing. You know how when you're doing a speech, the president uses their thumb? Yeah, so. But really what we're looking for is that landing position. When you're done running and your arms are just, they fall to your sides. And that's kind of what I see as what's happening to this girl. Alright? Wink wonk. Did you just assume my sexuality? My sexuality? A guy looking at her ass behind her. I didn't see that. I didn't catch that. So those are my tips. I hope they help you. One more before and after. Do you see how that texture wasn't doing anything? It was just causing a mess. It's such an amazing little style, and he just hit it with all that excessive whatever it was in the background, that texture that I don't want to look at her. I want to look at all of her. Leave all that crazy detail cluster on her. One thing I would do though is the breasts, because you are creating an actual border around the breasts, they're serving as like a sub focal point or something. You need to express this depression in between them, and then the elevations respective to each elevation of the breast. Some minor edge work is needed, and then the same thing, just try to find the core shadows on the cylinder of the neck, because you have this core shadow here. This core shadow is going to be consistent throughout. And now that you have a perfectly clear background, it means that you've expressed a clear atmosphere around her. That's another reason why we don't want to overcluster the background with detail or crazy texture. The background is one part of the... Does anyone have an answer to that? What is the background a big part of? I don't think the breasts are saggy. I think it's just a stylization. The torso is very long. I have no problem with the silhouette of the breasts or the torso area. Alright, so I'm just getting in some secondary light source. But yeah, why is the what's the background all about? What's the background a big part of? If you're on YouTube, type it down to answer the question. Even like if you know it, even if it's YouTube. The composition, light environment, exactly. So when we throw a crazy detail in the background, what are we doing? We're interrupting one aspect of the light environment. Light environment is a term I use to express the relationship between the light, the atmosphere of the background, if it was a plain wall or an open space, and the object. Light environment is three-parter. Light source, object, and then the background in which all of that light floats around. Light doesn't just leave the air. It's not just the air isn't exempt from being illuminated. It does illuminate, and there's walls, massive walls possibly in the background, or open atmospheres of daylight or outdoor light that cause this this atmosphere to be illuminated. That's why we can't see stars, because there's so much light in the air all around us. If the air didn't capture any light on it, it would always be dark, even if the sun was out, which doesn't make any sense physically. These tiny little air molecules are all translating light, transferring light from one object to another, carrying light. Light travels through it. So when you throw crazy texture just to be stylistic and edgy and cool, you're throwing off one massive physics component of your lighting situation, which is your light environment, the background and the environment around the object. So now we can really focus on this. The fact that we have the core shadow in this direction and the secondary light source is indicated as the way you made it on the breast means that the light source is coming from the top left, which means that this whole area here should have been in shadow, but it's the face. Oh no, we can't hide the face in shadow. What are we supposed to do? We're supposed to plan our light environment early on so we don't end up hiding the most important part of the character design, which is the portrait or the bust, in shadow. We plan these things later on, early on, so we don't make these mistakes later on. I make the stupidest mistakes with my sentences and I end up saying the opposite of what I want to say, and it's just so frustrating. Is there a supplement or a vitamin you can take that'll make you say better things? That'll make you say better sentences? Construct better sentences? Is there a supplement? Sort of nutrient, vitamin. I'm just making these core shadows here a little bit more consistent. Really important that we have these shadows here consistent throughout the image. I'm going to try to keep shadows at a minimum around the face. Since it's the face, we can't really afford to hide too much of it away. And then on the cloth, another interesting little thing you can do is borrow from the secondary, and all the shadows of the cloth, instead of being shadows, they get the secondary light source on them. Because it seems like it's a very reflective skirt, but only on this half. And leaving the super highlights on the cloth, so you've actually used a pure white on the dark side. This is wrong. I'm just gonna dull these super highlights down. They don't need to be super highlights like that. What you do need is just the sections that are white, that are pointed toward, and of course not in the same contrast level with everything else on the other side, that are pointed towards the light source. But the shadows all have this secondary light source element. Alright, so there's that with the hand. I can't go into the hand and shade it for you, but remember, every finger is a rectangle, every finger is a cube. It's just a small form study. Everything is a form study. Alright, write that back to me. If you do have anything to submit for critique, you have to submit it to the critique community, or else I won't be able to find it. I don't choose every single piece that's on this critique community. There's 3,000 plus members. I won't be able to choose every single one of your work, every piece of work that I see. But if I do feel like these pieces all work together for the same theme, or they serve the same purpose and for the instruction, then I'll borrow from those. All right. So question time. If you have a question for me, write my name with the question, my full name, and it'll highlight the question for me so that I could find it. If you have any questions so far. Okay. So leave your backgrounds clean, you guys. It does worse. It does more, like it hurts more than it helps. And then this is a 14-day challenge piece I wanted to look at. Just a little bit of talk on the on breaking the golden ratio, or breaking the beauty standard. So the nose is just a little bit large, but you can get away with it. You can, for it being that large. Just to let you know, just to show you the before and after. It's very large and very low. Istebrak, where can I find a good scatter brush for blending with the smudge tool? You can make one. All you have to do is that when you make it, there are many tutorials online to make, on YouTube to make brushes, but when you make it, all you really have to do is turn this on. This little doohickey, well, this is not going to scatter, but you have to make sure you turn that on. This right here. What this does to your brush is it makes it do this. If you combine, what the heck did I just do? If you combine that with a smudge brush, then you start smudging on a scatter, very similar to what happens in the real world. You go back and forth smudging recursively. All you have to do is turn this on and increase the scatter. If the scatter is low, you're not going to get shit. You have to increase that. The count means that you have more and more in the cluster, so it'll look more like that than like that. And the count and jitter, I think, is based off one of these. I'm not sure. I've never really used this one. It's just these two bars. Alright, so that's the big thing with the scatter brush. Just make sure you turn scatter on. When drawing half a body, how much should we draw? Don't draw towards an awkward cutoff point near the hips. Draw just above the hips, the hip bones. Cut it off underneath the belly button. Istebrak, how can I practice my time management while painting and studying? That really is situational. It really depends on how you go through your day. If you've got school, of course, school comes first. I'm not gonna say that. I'm not gonna sit here and say you should draw more and fail all your classes. I think there's a good quality in going to school, just to keep your mind open to different subjects of study and keep you on your toes that way intellectually. And when you get home, if you game a lot, stop gaming as much. Period. That's the best go-to answer for now. Don't game so much. Leave gaming as a reward at the end of the day, out of the way. Do not make it your priority. First thing to go to is the game when you get home from school, when you get home from work. If you don't work and if you don't go to school, or if you work at home or something, again, make sure that if you wanted to make time, if you really wanted it, you will have time. You will make time. When you say, I don't have time and I don't know how to manage my time and that's all bullshit. I'll never believe that people are so busy, unless you're like the CEO of the world. Like, you have to manage wind speed and you have to make sure that every country has an equal amount of rain, and you're like the angel of death or something, and you have to make sure that you meet your daily death quota or something. Like, unless you're responsible for some sort of universal, unless you're Atlas himself, you have time, all right? You're not busy 24/7. There is something, a little 2-hour window in your day that you can shove everything to the side and have time to study. And that's just finding time to study. What to study in those 2 hours is different depending on what you want to improve on the soonest. What I always do is always make sure you have the staple study of forms. You always have forms somewhere in the day. You're studying some forms, doing some basic forms, a basic still life, anything. If you're interested in perfecting your form studies, your portraiture, do those along your form studies so that you can apply the rules you learned out of shading and radial shading and all that business back towards your portraits, to manage your time and improve fast, or stay away from color, and try to keep reference nearby. But these are just really general tips that I have for managing your time, if you do end up making time to study. And if you can't make time to study, you assess your life. There's something you're doing that's wasting a lot of time. Talking to people, hovering in the kitchen, talking to your parents about dumb shit. Just go to your room and start drawing already. Talking to people on the phone, staying too long on Facebook. I don't even know if Facebook is a plague anymore in our social lives. I don't even know. Like, do people still use Facebook like to socialize? I don't even know. Mostly it's games nowadays that's the biggest plague on our time management. But there are ways. If you wanted time, you'll find time. I use your brushes, but I don't seem to be able to produce similar marks to you. Do you have any advice? I am going to be making a video on how to use my brushes very soon, Danielle. Why did you give me false hope by downloading my drawing? Broke my heart, but I still love your classes, man. I didn't give you false hope. I'm gonna be looking at the rest of these. Chill. I didn't give you false hope. When drawing a half body, how much should we draw? I looked at that. For the first painting, what would you recommend I do to fix the perspective that you discussed? Is it something I'd have to establish from the beginning? Joshua, yes it is. It definitely is something that you have to draw in, sketch in, explore right in the early stages of the painting. What you can do, like what you can do right now to salvage it somewhat, even though it's going to look very awkward, you're going to have parts of the image that are still in the old perspective. What you can do is this. Sorry if I didn't read every question. I'll do my best to look over the rest. We'll just look for my name in the little highlight. But what you can do is shift this over, show less. So just that tilt in the eye really just did it right there. And then of course, block in the remainder of the... See how her face looks like it's turned away now? That's all we wanted, man. That's it. I think your values also are a little bit off. If you look at the reference, she's got a lot of purples in her skin tone. See those purples, those pure reds? They're layered, but they're there. Very, very cool. Or you have a very warm, earthy... warmth doesn't belong in shadows. Cools belong in shadows. Find the cool version of every color to add that to the shadow. So we're just showing more blocking in. It's okay if it looks weird. Just block it in. Just go with it. Just chill and just go with it. Don't freak out. Don't freak out. If you see this in your fixings, don't freak out. Just give it a second. Right. And then when we're done blocking in, we start blending. Need to keep the reference nearby. We also see more of her nostril because she's tilted towards us or away from us, so we see the bottom of it. And then so that we can blend away. Just always start blocking in. Always start with the block in, and then go in with the rest. All right. So what happens next? There's a little bit of light, of relief on the neck. The neck is showing more than the jaw. So you're seeing this, Joshua? Joshua? I like when you guys use your actual names instead of your aliases. Feels really weird for me to call like Celestial Butterfly, like to call you guys by your weird names. No offense, I love your aliases, they're very creative, but as a teacher I kind of lose self-respect and I'm just yelling these weird names out. It's like, yo, Thrasher 1892. Yes, you can use references for a 14-day challenge. Istebrak, how long did it take you to become as amazing as you are at art and at fixing critiquing art? I'm not sure I'm amazing. I don't like using those words beside my name because I'm really not. I have a lot of mistakes and I have a lot of anxiety when I paint and I have a lot of stage fright. But in order to get over all of that and be able to make these corrections happen on the screen and be able to show the results, I just trust the stuff I'm always lecturing about. So I practice when I preach. That nothing but the geometry is helping me along. Nothing but the geometry is really guiding me. Referencing, I keep them nearby. If I ask a student to use a reference, I have the reference nearby as well. So it's not like I'm making up these rules of physics. They were there before I started. I've just become aware of them. And then there's, of course, the mileage aspect. I've been doing this for years. So that's why I can make a correction happen within an hour or less, because I've been doing it for so long. So never underestimate mileage. Mileage will give you a lot of improvement. Again, just showing up every day, just like in the wire drawing suck video, just showing up every single day, just that alone will make you improve. But of course, if you want to improve drastically and not waste time, I'll follow all the other tips that I give you in that video as well. Yeah, I would cool this down. And I would just fix that little thing here. So this is how you can salvage what the mistakes were, but let's take a look at the before and after. It's just that tilt that we needed. So 1 second she's looking forward, another second she's tilted away. And then there is the, just waiting for liquefy to make up its mind, put down its T. Alright. We're seeing more of the nostril right there. We see less of the upper, so take a look at this. This is stacking that comes from rotation, which comes from practice. Usually the upper lip is above the lower lip, right? No, In this case, the head is tilted away, so this lip comes first, and then this one. So what you need to do is not make them equal. Make one more visible than the other. And that will cause more of a tilt. Alright. Following me, Joshua? Istebrak, my color drawings in Photoshop are always blurry or painterly. How do I make a clean colored drawing? Well, there's two things you're referring to right now. Your edges could be blurry, or it could be that you have muddy. When you say blurry, do you mean muddy, like over blended? Do you mean like ugly colors? Do your colors look uglyish for some reason and you're trying to make them look better, but you just can't? Or is it that you keep shading and shading and shading and you have blurry edges? You could be using a super soft brush. You need to stop using that brush. You need to start blocking in and using soft brush at the end. Or your values for your colors are really dark. You're not appreciating which values every color comes from. Yellow only exists in light, so if you're trying to shade a yellow, it's not going to happen. The shade for yellow, the dark version of yellow, is just orange. Orange is the next best color that still exists in that value range that is the neighboring color for yellow. So you have to think about it like that. You're kind of giving me two different issues here at the same time. I would have to look at your work in order to really diagnose it. Istebrak, did Istebrak ever say where her name came from or what it means at all? It's Arabic. It means golden milkweed woven in heaven. Right? God, it's such a mouthful. Istebrak, can you tell me, can you tell you're good enough to look for commissions? When can you tell you're good enough to look for commissions? Start commissions as soon as possible. If you've graduated the 14-day challenge and you're done and you have a good understanding of form, light on form, your contrast is good, your edge work is good, you have all the basics down, your utility belt is prepared. Yes, go into commissions. Don't delay commissions and say, oh, I won't unveil my beautiful art until I'm 100% me and I've fully bloomed as the unique flower that I am. It's not how it is. You learn as you work. A lot of this stuff I know today, I wouldn't have learned it if I didn't start freelancing. People come to you with all kinds of weird combinations of shit and you just have to like deal with it. It's field experience. Alright, you guys need field experience. You need to leave the studio, you need to leave the lab and actually get some field experience and get commissions as soon as possible. Start working in commissions as soon as possible. It'll teach you how to deal with people. It'll teach you how to work with deadlines. It'll give you weird combinations of stuff that you have to draw, and it'll give you a short amount of time to draw it in. So it's good training, right? It's field experience. So start as soon as possible after you've spent a decent amount of time studying the basic fundamentals. And when I say fundamentals, I mean all of it. Light environment, light on form, edge work, contrast, values under each color, perspective, anatomy, gestures. As long as you have not advanced, just intermediate, definitely not beginner. I know it's hard giving these titles, these weird labels to different skill levels, but just conceptually intermediate experience with these fundamentals, and then you can go in and start getting employed. Trust me, people will employ you. You will have jobs. Their jobs are waiting for you out there. There's no deficit of jobs. It's just you have to be able to talk to your commissioner in such a way where you convince them you are going to be an active part of the creation process. You're not just passively adding colors to pre-made templates or responding to them with pre-made cookie cutter applications. There are many bulletins out there. I can't get into that right now, but just it's field experience. You need it as soon as you're done training the basics. Istebrak, how do I give up? I want to give up, damn it. How do you give up? How do you give up on art? Try to go a week without drawing. Try to go a couple months without drawing. Stay away from art. Stay away from Instagram and looking at other people's art. Stay away from what originally made you want to draw, so don't read any more books. Don't watch any movies. Don't play any games. Don't look at labels on groceries of stuff that you buy. So it's like a cute little a cute little toaster with like a fork and some jam on it. Don't even look at that. Don't look at any art at all. And then you'll be able to give up on art. because that's what people who don't draw go through their lives doing. That's what the people who don't have any inclination to see drawings, they don't see drawings when they happen in front of them. When you are someone who is artistically inept, you don't see the colors that you see. Like, let's say you're a gamer but you're not an artist, which is very unlikely. Usually all gamers have some kind of inclination towards the artistic. But let's say you're like I don't know, an architect, even they're artistic. I don't know, let's say you're a data something, data plugger, and you're going around life and you like to play some games. You play a game, you don't see the color combinations. You don't see the character design. You don't even see the landscape. When you're walking outside, you don't even see colors. You see mathematics, you see constructions, you see all kinds of other sciences, but you just don't have an eye for it. If you want to give up on art, you're pretty much trying to change your identity. And I don't think that's possible. If you started in this, you can't undo it. It's something that you have always had an eye for. The way the curvature in something, the color of something, the edge in something, someone's particular combination of hair color and eye color, their actual specific skin tone, and how you want to capture it in a canvas. You don't just give up on art. It's like trying to change the way you see things. So if you want to actually try to give up on art, stop looking at art in media, stop looking at art around you. You'll eventually, I guess, learn how to ignore it, but I don't even think that's possible. Just don't give up on yourself is basically what I'm saying. An accountant, there you go. Statistician, aka boring ass bitch. Even if you amputate the hands of an artist, no, Ronan, amputate both hands does not help you. Even if you amputate my arms and legs, I'll still feel like I have to draw. I'll find a way to draw. You've seen all those amputees who draw with their hands, who draw with their feet. I mean, with their mouths and their feet. They don't just give up. There's no way out of seeing the colors and the way things look in the real world. There's no way to unsee art. Once you have it, once you start doing it, you can't stop. Exactly, Jen. Pour bleach into your eyes. I guess if you go blind, you'll still... Oh, that's terrifying. That's terrifying. That's not even a joke anymore. What's the magic behind being confident enough to share your artwork online? You are always going to have that issue with the confidence. You don't just grow confidence and then go in and then say I have this amount of confidence plus this amount of art, and I have these many people. The mathematics results in, yes, I have enough confidence to cover this much work with this much exposure. It's when I post my art, when I'm up here teaching you guys, there is still a confidence issue. There is still a hesitance. I think you just have to be able to work past it. At one point or another, you just let go and go in and hope everything goes okay. The first time you walk, what made you as a stupid little baby? Babies are stupid. But what made you think that you can walk? Like, what made you think that you can do it? The first time you went up, you usually crawl, but this time you're going to walk. You said, hey, I need to get to that table over there, and I'm here at the couch, and I need to crawl over to that table. You know what? I don't feel like crawling. Something's telling me to stand up. I'm going to stand up, and I'm just going to start walking. That first time you walked, you never looked back. You go, and then somehow, some way, you're okay with the fact that you might fall and break your nose, or somehow you've given in to the fact that you might fall again. It's just a blindness thing. You just have to start sharing your work, and when you're ready, you just know it. And I know that's a very confusing little concept that it's not really answering anything, but basically at one point or another, you're gonna have to let go. But your artist today is not what it's going to be tomorrow, so might as well just let go. Baby's getting called out. So I'm saying they're stupid because, I mean, even babies have managed to develop that instinctual, I think that's what the word is, just giving up, giving in, and just letting it happen. So just let it happen. Throwing shade to the babies. You're so wise. How old are you? 20,000 years old? That's exactly how old I am. I'm not wise, but I'm very old. I'm not that old. I'm 26. I mean, I'm getting there. But I feel old. Art. It hurts not to draw. It's literally an instinct for me. Yeah, it hurts. When I don't draw, when it's been too long since I've drawn, when I'm out of commission or I just got out of an injury or something, just my recent injury, I thought the whole world, like all the walls that I built around me about myself and my identity were just tumbling down because it was a personal thing. So you can't just give up on art. Alright, so these are the things that I recommend you change. Stop getting so philosophical. Let's move on. And I'm gonna look at that piece that person told me about. Alright, then I'll look at this. I'll finish this up. But here, something's bothering me with this guy, and it has a lot to do with the edge of the image. I know what it is. He took up too much space on the canvas. He took up so much space that his head, in order for you to show him, it stunted the growth of the head as you drew it. So he must be bald under there. He doesn't look bald under there. If he's bald, then there won't be any volume by the hair, made by the hair, that raises the turban upward. Right? But when you have hair, it does raise it up. Alright, so I'm going to give more volume. His head felt tiny. So if this is how big his head is, even with the turban on, how small is it with the turban off? The turban is quite an elevation. Whoop. Right, so I'm just going to run another Q&A before I finish up today. But please, please, please give your paintings some breathing room. Give them some space. Why do you guys paint with such tiny little canvases? Give them some space. It'll feel more realistic. It'll feel more anatomically correct. And you'll see in a second how tiny his head was. See that? Tiny. Right? So the hair and the turban and layers of the turban falling down and the air behind the drapery of the turban all caused an external elevation. And the fact that it was such a tiny little canvas and you were losing space, typically this should have been like around, it should have taken up all the space, right? It should have been out here. But because you're so scared of the edge, you didn't. Because you're scared of the edges. Oh no, I'm approaching the edges of the canvas. I'm just going to make sure everything is nice and set before I reach the edge. You're digital. You have all the power to just add in more space on the sides. It's not like you're traditional. But again, a lot of the plagues that plagued us when we were traditional are still running through our veins. They're still just surging through our way we draw and through everything. And it's caused these kinds of leftover mistakes. We're so afraid of the edge of the sketchbook and we run out of space. That's it. We run out of space. We can't enlarge the sketchbook with alchemy. It's not possible. Okay. Istebrak, how do you get past art blocks? So you guys can start asking your questions now. If I didn't catch one of your questions earlier, you can go ahead and repeat it. Istebrak, how do you get past art block? Sometimes when I have art block, I just start messing around with my brushes. See how my brushes feel. Sometimes just messing around with my brushes makes me feel like I want to draw again. Just to use my brushes, just for the sake of using them. So an art block is not so much a block as it is like an intentional stop because you got bored. Art block is like art boredom. You just got bored. So when you sit there and you're on your couch and you don't feel like drawing, or you're on your computer and you're staring at an empty screen, try to trick yourself into thinking that art is not boring anymore. And by changing in the environment, just by changing the environment, that's it. Just by changing the landscape a little bit, using a different brush, looking at different kinds of art, looking at some weird random impressionist art or some data art, some really weird stuff that you're not used to seeing. Just by creating a slight little difference and changing the pace of stuff around you, you'll get interested in art again. Art block is not an actual block. I firmly believe it is boredom. You are just bored. Okay? There's no such thing as art block. There's no fucking little fairy or little demon that actually exists, and we need like a troll hunter to go find it and kill it, that goes around to artists giving them art block. You know, it's not just an actual locatable thing that actually causes art block. It's just boredom. Your environment hasn't inspired you. It hasn't stimulated you. Art block is lack of stimulation. You need to get stimulated again, all right? Stimulate yourselves. Listen to some music. Watch a weird movie. Watch a genre of movies that you don't really usually watch. Do something different. That's how I get past my art block. Every time I think I can't draw, I get a new brush, I start messing around with it, and suddenly I'm drawing 17 sketches in, and I'm like, wow, it wasn't art block this whole time. I was just being a little bitch. How do you battle the feeling that the more you learn, the more you realize how much you don't know? I think it's a comfort. There's a comfort that comes with it. That you actually know enough now, that you're so aware now compared to how you were before. All you have to do is look behind you and you see all that space you've covered. And you're like, oh wow, look at how far I've come. That's really how I've battled it. Just looking past and looking at the students around me, looking at how many times I've seen people like evolve and change, and there's so much left for me to look, for me personally to improve, but just seeing that when you turn around and you see all the space you've covered, all the distance you've crossed, all those miles you walked, all those years that you've endured, it makes it all worthwhile. It makes the excess that's left behind, that's ahead of you, it gives you the patience to endure it. What is the best software for digital? That's different for everyone. Everyone's is different. For me, it's Photoshop. Photoshop is very versatile. It's an industry standard. It's the sensei. If you would, would you say it is easier to begin with sketches or with blocking out and then detailing, if that makes sense? Sketches, and then block, and then render and blend, and then detail. Detailing is like the last hour of the sketch process, of the drawing process, if the process lasted 10 hours. No. If the process lasted 10 hours, the last 30 minutes is the detail. Freckles and hair and lashes and eyebrows and all that business. You can sketch out your image. If you're using a reference, allow that reference to help you, and then block in the lights as you see them through polygons, so different polys. So sketch and then turn your model into this, and then slowly at the very end reach this level of render. I draw in a shitty iPad app with no texture brushes. What do you think about that? If you found the money, if your parents got you the money to buy you an iPad somehow, if your household managed to collect the money to get an iPad, you have more than enough money to go grab yourself a $150 tablet. And with that, you have access to Photoshop, you have access to all kinds of brushes. I don't approve of you using an iPad app. I don't approve of you having an iPad instead of an actual tablet. Do you draw traditionally, or have you turned completely to drawing digital? I draw traditionally all the time. I sketch, I use pencils, I use charcoal pencils. But it's usually almost always portraiture. When I want to draw landscapes, when I want to draw the big stuff, I don't have a studio, and traditional gets messy when you use paint, so I just go into digital. What's the best way to practice perspective traditionally? Referencing is good. I see a lot of artists draw their left hand, so if you're right-handed, just sit on your couch or somewhere comfortable, lean against something and have your left hand rotate around and just do different things in different frames, as I mentioned earlier, using the frame and animation thing. So have different motions. Just do different sequences of the same motion, different frames of the same motion with your left hand. And on a sketchbook, and that's while you're watching TV or something, just let your hand rotate and work as a reference. That alone is experiencing perspective, and one way to experience it. What is the best way to see mistakes in my own painting? Flip the canvas or take an hour break and then come back to the painting. On your own, you mean? Yeah, without help. I'm using a free program without brushes, and I use the mouse. Can I still do a 14 days challenge? The thing is, like, everyone has an iPhone nowadays. Everyone has a phone that's like $200, and the plan is like $200 down, and you get $60 a month for this much data, and you guys still can't. You're telling me you can't get a tablet? That's what bothers me, because there really are students that can't afford a tablet. They don't have all those fancy phones. They don't have anything. So a lot of you have the best phones, you guys. And you can't just sit there telling me you got a computer, you got internet, you're telling me you can't get a tablet. Let's go to Amazon real quick. Let's go to Amazon together. So you guys might see my weird wish list. Bathrobes and spices. All right. Wacom Tablet. Okay. $70. This is more than enough. This will get you all the brushes that you need. Okay, 302. This is the one I have. I don't know why it's still this much. It's garbage. But this one I have if you want to go a little bit higher. I don't like this one because these buttons are useless. $74. $86. All under 100. How much money do you guys spend just going to Wendy's? You know, how much money do you guys spend going to the mall and going to movies? You can't just take it easy for 2 months and save yourself like 2 allowances worth. Now, if you really are on the bottom, like you've hit rock bottom and you don't have a cent and your parents aren't giving you a dime and you live with them and you're in that specific situation where you just literally don't have any money. I can't tell you to make it a case with your parents and just make them get it for you. But if you have a phone, if Christmas just passed and they were kind of, they had a little bit of extra spending money for you, you could have asked for something like this. Or something like this. These are all just fine. Go to eBay. There's tons of used Wacom tablets. Let's go to eBay together. Okay, used Wacom, used bamboo. Give me your actual bamboo. Yep, gave me actual bamboo. Tablet. All right, $30. Used Wacom bamboo pen tablet. $30 or best offer. $40 or best offer. Come on, guys. $10 for this is just fine. This is just fine. If you don't have anything at all, this is just fine. And then $10 shipping. Alright, don't give me that stuff. Don't tell me that you guys don't have tablets and you're using a mouse. A mouse is not it's not acceptable. Not acceptable. Alright, so what I'm doing right now is I'm just bringing in some cast shadows. You really need cast shadows. It's not optional. Cast shadows are not optional. Write that back to me. They're not optional. Alright, you don't just see them in your reference and then you decide to ignore them. Don't ignore cast shadows. They're there for your benefit. The eyes are a little bit far apart, so I'm just going to get them to be a little bit closer. And then, because when you do that far apart eye thing, let's go into Portrait Studio real quick. When you do that weird far apart eye, it'll look like an alien. I'm serious. So let's model. Where are you? Default. Where is that reset head and neck? Okay. When you do that weird eye thing, so let's find it. Let's find the eyes. Rotation. Let's do that. And then the distance between them is really far. Alright? You just get an alien. That's it. Just get an alien look. So this does look pretty. Yeah, it's pretty. It's like that whole Avatar alien thing, but it's still alien. As designers, you have to be aware. When you even slightly cross outside of the skeletal norm that unifies humankind, you enter a whole new race. You enter a humanoid, not human. Alright? So when we go back to the default, just take a look at the default. Very universal, very basic. There is still an eye tilt. This corner is still lower than this corner, but it's not so alien anymore. When you have this kind of situation, you are giving off, or not even this, when you have this, you are giving off that weird, new, different, it's fine, do it. But I would rather not see this in your default 14-day challenges, because this is the face you're going to use for commissions. You're going to give people alien faces when they've asked you for very, very basic, average looking characters, right? So you want to develop a more universal, familiar human beauty. And then you can just customize it as you want as you go. So I'm going to fix the eye tilt as well. I probably shouldn't have done that. I should do this first. And it's going to look a little bit more human and a little bit more believable. Do you see that? Do you see where they were before? And then the eyebrows look a little bit worried because the tilt moved the eyebrows as well, and I'm just going to tuck those down. It looks like someone with Waardenburg syndrome. You know, there's actual, like, every single little deformation I've ever seen, there's like a syndrome for it. There's actual syndrome where you have a large head or a small head. You actually have these real deformities happen in the real world. So you guys say, oh yeah, that's just my style. But the realistic version of that is an actual deformity. It's no longer, the human is no longer functional properly. The human doesn't function anymore if these asymmetries happen, if these weird tilts happen. So if you did ever have to do an alien, again, you learn by making mistakes. Now you know what to do in order to make an alien happen. So I'm almost done with today's class. Kind of lasted a little bit long, almost an hour and a half. Shadow in between the eyes here. I really recommend don't over texture the eyebrows. The eyebrows don't carry any function. They're just there as a signature of the eye, the accessories that come with the eye, which is the shade that they provide. The whites of the eyes are non-existent. This is not good. The eyes read as bloodshot because red is actually a dark value. So please give us some white for the eyes. Again, you used a lot of units to make the eyes look alien. Maybe you have that. Maybe you have like a thing for that in your characters. You like drawing interesting, weird-looking characters, which is just fine. But again, if it's a 14-day challenge, if you're trying to perfect your portfolio to be a little bit more versatile and hireable, you want to learn the norm. Yeah, apply a little bit of your own style in there, but not so much that it's changed from human to humanoid. And that scholarship is still up. You still end up, you know, if you apply to that scholarship, you show how you've been drawing, you make a case for yourself. You're not just going to get a tiny little tablet that I might send you under $40, under $50. You end up getting like a really good tablet. So that's definitely in the rewards of that, you know, what you gain from that scholarship. So there's still time. I still haven't decided who the winners are. We haven't made any decisions yet. The deadline is the 31st of January. I extended it from the 31st of December because there just wasn't enough time. And I didn't want it to read as a holiday giveaway type of deal. So you end up getting a really good tablet and lots of sessions with me to look over your work and what you need to improve on. Whatever I can offer. Okay, so made it just a little bit more believable, just a little bit more realistic. There's still some work needed for the lower eyelids. Not looking at the questions or the comment section just yet. If you have any questions, I'm going to do my last little Q&A in like 5 minutes. So get your questions ready. If I missed anything, just repeat it and write my name so I can see it. Alright, so I'm just giving some space to differ between, like, to create a difference between the skin of the face and the skin of the eyelids. Because it is an Asian eye you're going for. So, not only did you make it Asian eye, you made it a tilted, you made them far away from each other. You really borrowed from that humanoid aesthetic. And that's what made it so difficult to create a familiarity. That's what made it kind of made your audience uneasy when looking at this face. And again, if you want to make your audience uneasy, use these exact units. Smudge out the lips, please. The lips don't have any skeletal or geometric structure to them. They have a cylinder, but that's as geometric as they get. Alright. Nostrils are just 2 dots. I would love to see more radial shading, but I can't cover everything today. Alright, so before, you see the largeness of the nose, the strangeness of the eyes, none of it was human. And after we did bring a variation, she still looks, if this is a very striking face, if we still saw this face in the real, like if we saw this face in the real world, we would still be shocked by its beauty. She still looks gorgeous, but it's not so gorgeous that it's unreal or unbelievable. Okay? So any questions? What do you think about the art that uses both warm and cool colors? That's just a really strong light source. That's fed all colors equally, but still, even then, I'm so sure there is still a warm or cool wash, dominant wash. All right. Thank you everyone for watching today, you guys. It's great having all of you. It's like 100+ students just jumped out of nowhere. You guys came out of nowhere. I think YouTube's been recommending my videos all around, but I'm not sure exactly what's with the jump recently. But I welcome all of you to all you noobs. Every Tuesday and Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time is when I stream. If you want work critiqued, if you want work looked at, don't just message it on Facebook. Message it, I mean, send it, submit it on the community. You'll have other people mention their thoughts and their ideas about well, your work, where your issues are, and then I'll try my best to get your stuff. If I haven't looked at your stuff, but you find the mistakes that I've looked at in other work apply to you, you can still apply these corrections to yourself. My lessons are pretty universal. But please make sure that you're not uploading sketch by sketch. You read the rules before submitting. And that's it. I will see you guys on Tuesday next at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, possibly 5:30. Thank you all for joining today. Have a great day, guys. Bye-bye.